Okay, today I'm going to review the Stihl RB400 Dirt Boss pressure washer. So this is a 2700 PSI pressure washer, and it's absolutely the best one I've ever owned. Before this, I had 4 other pressure washers that I bought at the big box stores. Lowe's, Home Depot, or Amazon, wherever. I've had 1 decent pressure washer out of those 4. The other 3 were lemons. One of them tore up while I was making the review video. So what I want you to take away from this video is, if you're thinking about buying a pressure washer or some other sort of outdoor power equipment, do your research, give Stihl a really hard look, because it's absolutely the best you can buy. Save your money and go buy the best. So normally I pay about $3.50 for a pressure washer. I paid $8.50 for the Stihl, and I don't regret it. I think it's worth every dime I paid. It will very likely last me at least 10 years. Before I get too far into the video, I want to talk about buying Stihl products, and I'm not trying to make an advertisement for Stihl here, but it really is the best. You can only buy Stihl through an authorized dealer. They don't sell through Lowe's, Home Depot, or Amazon. So if you want to buy a Stihl product, or if you need to buy replacement components, you have to go to an authorized dealer. Let's just say that you want to go buy another pump for this. Let's say you tear up your pump somehow and you want to go buy a pump. If you go look on Amazon or eBay, you're going to find a pump that's absolutely 100% identical, but it will not be a Stihl pump, and it won't be Stihl quality. You can only buy Stihl parts from authorized Stihl dealers. So what I like about this is it's very rugged. It's got a great engine. The engine is very thoughtfully laid out, and I'll get to that in a minute. It's got a great pressure hose. It's got a wand. It has a very nice metal, and that's an important feature, metal support on the side for your wand, with a place for the bottom of the wand to go. There's a little cup down there, so you have a nice convenient place to set your wand. It comes with a soap dispensing hose. It comes with nice rugged wheels. It's just a really good quality product all around. So now let's take a deeper look at it. Let's look up close at all the features. I'm going to show you how it works and what everything does, and then we're going to go outside and pressure wash. When you buy your pressure washer, you should get an owner's manual for the pressure washer. You should get an information and maintenance manual for your engine, and a warranty disclaimer that's written in like 6 or 7 different languages. So if your dealer doesn't give you these, you need to ask for them. Before I crank it up and show you what it can do, let's look at some engine specs. Okay, I've got my speed control. I'm going to set about halfway between turtle and rabbit. All the way to the right is turtle, all the way to the left is rabbit. I'm going to set it about halfway, which is about right there. I'm going to set my choke halfway between choked and not choked, as the owner's manual says to do. And the fuel this way is off, this way is on, so I'm going to turn my fuel on all the way over here. So now you're ready to crank it. You just got to make sure your water's turned on. Okay, first hook up the hose. And so one of the things I like about the Stihl pressure washer is that the hose goes underneath this bar. So if you're going to move the pressure washer around, you've sort of got a way to control where the hose is in relation to your pump. Alright, so I'm going to tighten it down good. And be aware that's a brass fitting, so just be careful if you have a pair of channel locks or pair of pliers that you're not applying too much pressure and damaging it. What I usually try and do is hold the brass fitting in one place and tighten the hose up on the brass fitting. There we go. Alright, so that should be good to go. Okay, next, attach the pressure line. So push that in, and you can tighten this by hand. I recommend you do not use channel locks on that, because you will damage it. And by the way, while I'm doing this, I'll mention, if you have to replace the whole pump assembly, that's going to be about $250. So just be careful when you're working on that. Alright, the pressure line's attached. If you want to attach a soap line, you put it on right here. Okay, I'm going to connect the pressure hose up to the wand, so push that in until it's snug, really tight, and then tighten that down. And again, I would not use channel locks on this, because you can get these so tight that it won't come off, and then you've torn up your wand and your hose. So just hand tighten it really good. So now we're ready to work. The unit also comes with a nice metal holder for your pressure hose, and it's got great tires which you can air up. You can actually plug a pump in there and air up your tires if they get low. So here's a picture of the tag, by the way, if you want to see exactly which one I've got. On the back side of the engine, you're going to find your air intake. Well, a lot of people call that a breather. So you can remove this wing nut on the very top, and this whole piece will come off. And underneath that, you're going to find another wing nut, and there's your air filter. So you can take this wing nut off. And while I'm doing this, I recommend that you change your air filter a couple of times each season, and you can also clean it out. I'm not going to show how to clean it. There's a lot of YouTube videos that show you how to clean these. So you can take your wing nut off, pull your filter off, and there's your air intake. So this is what the filter looks like. And this filter, you can buy it at a lot of different parts stores. I'd recommend buying an original Stihl filter. It's going to run you about $15. The spark plug is right here between your air filter and your exhaust. It's underneath this black thing that my finger is on, so you can grab the end of that, pull it off, and there's your spark plug. So to get the spark plug out or put it back in, you're going to need a 5/8 inch or 16 millimeter socket. Also, the spark plug has a spark gap of 0.03 inches, and if you're going to put the spark plug in, you need a torque wrench like this. Make sure you torque it to 20 foot-pounds. Don't over torque it because you'll break the spark plug off, so be careful about that. Okay, let's take a look at the engine. So if I'm looking at the front of the engine, on the left side, underneath the gas tank, there's a yellow cap. You can unscrew that cap and you can check your oil. But if you do, make sure that you don't touch the engine itself. If it's been running, you could burn your fingers. On the other side of the pump, underneath the muffler, there's another yellow cap. You can also check your oil there. A lot of small engines have two places to check your oil, and I'll show you in just a minute how to check your oil. On this side of the engine, underneath the gas tank, there's also this thing, which is a low oil sensor. So you can bypass this, but I recommend you don't do it. This is a safety thing to protect your engine if you have low oil. So if you have low oil, this engine will turn itself off. Inside the engine, in the bottom of the crankcase, there's a magnetic reed switch, which is what this uses to determine if you have low oil. At the bottom of the engine's mounted on a plate right here that has a slot cut in it, and that slot is for you to drain your oil. So at the bottom of the engine, there's a bolt here you can remove, and the oil will drain out of the crankcase through that slot and a catch basin that you can put underneath your platform right there. Just be careful. If you crank your engine and let it run, the oil coming out could be hot, or the whole engine itself could be hot, so don't burn your fingers. If you're going to drain your oil, you should let the engine warm up for about 15 to 20 seconds. Some people say a minute, but I usually do it about 20 seconds just to let the oil circulate and get warm before you drain it out. Just be careful and don't burn your fingers. On the other side of the engine, there's another bolt right there. You can also drain your oil out, but there's no slot cut in your platform there. So here's your muffler. Be careful, don't touch your muffler. As I've said before, I really like it that the pull cord to crank the engine is on the opposite side from the muffler. Okay, let's check the oil. And I always check the oil. Even if I've changed it recently, I always check it just to be sure. It's just sort of an OCD thing with me. All right, so the oil is right there to the top of the ridges on the stick, so we're in good shape with oil. Okay, now I'm going to crank it up. So again, one of the things I like about this is there's a convenient place right here to put your foot so you can hold it stable when you pull the cord to crank it. I also really like that the muffler is on the opposite side of the pressure washer from where my hands go when I crank it. So one hand goes here, one hand goes here, and you pull it. I have had pressure washers before where the muffler was right here, and if I've been using it and it got hot, I turned it off and then re-cranked it. Sometimes I would put my hand on the hot muffler, and I have burned my hand before. So Stihl did a good job, or actually Kohler did a good job of laying their engine out so that your muffler is away from where your hands go when you're trying to crank it. All right, I've got my fuel turned on. I've got my speed set about halfway. I've got my choke halfway, so now I'm going to crank it. Crank right up. Okay, the water's turned on, so now I'm going to pull the trigger and let it vent the air out of the line, which takes about 20 seconds usually. So notice I do not have a tip on here the first time I crank it up. All right, let's put a tip on. I'm going to start out with my black tip. So you hold it like this, pull this brass ring down, put your tip on. Push the brass ring up, make sure your tip is in place really good. So one end of the hose goes to your pressure washer. The other end with this black filter on it goes down in the bucket. So I've got a bucket of water and detergent prepared. So you just make sure your end is down under your water. And when I'm washing my vehicles, I use a very mild detergent. I usually use this made by Armor All. This is made for vehicles and it's safe for your paint. So the detergent gets sucked up out of the water through the hose. It goes through your outlet on your, it gets pulled in right there and goes through the outlet on your pressure washer going to your wand. So let me show you how that works. Okay, now I'm going to demonstrate the surface scrubber, but first I want to make a point. The wand extension that normally comes with a Stihl is 20 inches long. When I use a surface scrubber, I use an extension that's 36 inches long so that I don't have to bend over a lot. If you're washing something like a driveway or a sidewalk, it could take a couple hours, and after a while, bending over is going to give you a backache. This extension you can buy at pretty much any big box store. Now here's how the surface scrubber works. It's got this rotating head that spins like that on the bottom, and this one is about 12 inches wide. So as you move along, it scrubs a 12-inch wide swath across your driveway. All right, let's check it out. So as you can see, the surface scrubber does a great job, and the RB400 has plenty of power to power most of the surface scrubbers on the market. You can easily see the line between where I scrubbed the driveway and where I didn't. So let me make a point. This is a Briggs & Stratton surface scrubber that I bought from one of the big box stores. You can buy a lot of these online, and a lot of the really expensive scrubbers have wheels around the outside perimeter. This just has a brush around the outside. For a couple of reasons. The brush keeps debris from coming out from under the scrubber and getting all over you, and it helps the scrubber walk across your surface. So as you scrub, there's downward pressure from the water which pushes up on the scrubber and holds it up off the ground almost like it's hovering, and you can scoot it right across the surface. So if you want one of these, you really don't have to go buy the most expensive thing you find that's made of stainless steel and has wheels. I've had this Briggs & Stratton scrubber for 3 years and it's done a great job. Okay, final thoughts. I really like the Stihl RB400 pressure washer. I think it's by far the best pressure washer I've ever owned. It's got a great engine that's thoughtfully laid out. It's got all metal surfaces, a good metal frame. The engine is set on shock absorbers. It's all around a good quality product. My advice is, if you're looking for a pressure washer, before you go to the big box stores and buy something cheap, take a look at Stihl. Stihl is supported by its dealers really well. Now this is going to cost more, but it's worth every penny. I think when you buy Stihl, you're buying the best.